no wonder you hate public speaking. Your hands get sweaty, your heart beats fast, and your mouth goes dry. Something goes wrong, you panic. It's no wonder you hate it when you spend hours practicing only to end up forgetting whatever it is that you were going to say. It is no freaking wonder. It's no wonder you hate it. It's no wonder why you say things like, I'd rather get in a car wreck than do that presentation that's on your schedule. It's no wonder when you do make your way through whatever speaking thing you've got to do, you end up reviewing it in your mind in excruciating detail, picking out every quote unquote mistake you made, everything you should have done better, every audience member's face. Like you're thinking about them and you're creating stories in your mind about how bored they were or how they hated what you had to say. It's just no freaking wonder. It's no wonder you hate public speaking so much. Because people like me, like your old teachers, like the speaking experts you've watched on social media, we've handed you a list of to-dos. We've handed you false formulas. We've handed you tips. We've handed you tricks. We've handed you fixes and told you if you followed them that your fear would go away. That if you did everything we said, that you would be able to put on the performance of a lifetime. We promised you standing ovations and feedback sheets filled with positive comments and endless streams of requests to speak coming in. It is no freaking wonder why you hate public speaking so much. It's because we told you things like, now, don't read, but don't memorize. Okay. Practice makes perfect. Yeah, until it makes you neurotic. Personalize what you have to say. But now don't be too personal. Use big gestures, but don't distract your audience. Now, I want you to avoid death by PowerPoint, but make sure you have slides prepared for everyone to follow along. Tell stories, but don't make it too much about yourself. Remember, it's a performance, and therefore you better put on a good show. Know your audience. Except it's impossible for you to know your audience because you can't possibly know everyone. You just can't. Here's another good one. How about get in the zone? Oh, for goodness sakes, you are not playing football. Where the heck is the zone? I never even understood where the zone was. Don't start your talk with a greeting. You got to start with a great hook. Y'all, people are not fish, and hi isn't a typical human, polite greeting. You better deliver a jaw-dropping experience. Sometimes what you're talking about is boring, period, like a board meeting. Don't try to get cute. Say what you've got to say and get it out. The context matters. If you make a mistake, you'll leave a terrible impression. Oh, that's awesome. Let's scare people and underestimate the audience that's listening to them. It is no freaking wonder you hate public speaking, and I'm so sorry. Because you deserve to be heard. You deserve to speak without fear. You deserve to share your stories, your data, your ideas without being afraid. I'm apologizing now because I've taught all of these things at one point or another, not realizing that in many cases that's quote unquote sage public speaking advice so many people give actually stops people from ever starting. I mean, come on, there are so many rules. And I say rules lightly because for heaven's sake, there are no public speaking police waiting to come and get you if you start unknowingly fidgeting because you're nervous. You hate public speaking because you've been led to believe that in order to be successful at it, that you must put on an act. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you're thinking if you wanted to act, you would have gone on to study acting and become a Broadway star. Even worse, what's even worse is that if you speak as yourself, you're afraid you're going to be rejected for what you say, so you put on an even bigger act. and everything just seems off. There are so many rules with public speaking that tell you how to act, with the underlying implication that if you somehow fail to hit all of these markers, that you will be a failure in front of lots of people, which is embarrassing. And we're humans and we avoid embarrassment like it's COVID. Yep, I said that, meaning that some people go to extremes with this one way or the other. It is no wonder so many people remain silent. It is no wonder you hate public speaking. Look, I'm telling you all of this because we've been teaching it wrong for ages. What I have learned in my time in this area, and what I've learned from a couple of really great teachers, is to take a different approach. These are people you have very likely never heard of before. A guy named Stephen Ruman. He's a keynote speaker, a professor at Texas Lutheran University, and a self-proclaimed nerd about leadership and social media. And another guy named Michael T. Motley, who wrote this obscure but data-based book on overcoming the fear of public speaking. And what I've learned from them is that public speaking is not supposed to be a performance. It's supposed to be a conversation. And when we look at how conversation is defined, a conversation is defined as a talk, especially an informal one, between two or more people in which news and ideas are exchanged. I'm going to say that one more time because I really want you to think about it. A conversation is defined as a talk, especially an informal one, between two or more people in which news and ideas are exchanged. Doesn't that sound easier than public speaking as acting or as a performance? Doesn't that sound better than having to put on a performance? Doesn't that, dare I say it, sound more authentic? It eliminates the need for you to be the expert, prove your credibility, and instead allows you to share what you know with the people you're talking to in a normal and natural way. For you, your style, using all the tools that help you and your audience understand. It eliminates the need to have it all figured out. If you are having a conversation and you are not performing, you do not have to have all figured out. You can structure things in a way that makes it easy for you to say and for other people to understand. You can stop doing weird things when you stand. For goodness sakes, you aren't a Broadway star. You are a person who already knows how to talk. You already know how to have a conversation. You have conversations every day. It is no wonder you hate public speaking. You've been told from the get-go it's something that's hard and that only the elite few who choose to dedicate themselves to it will ever truly be successfin at. What a crock. I mean, that's like telling a kid to quit gymnastics or football before they even start because there's no point. There's no point in doing it if you're not going to make it to the Olympics, Johnny. Oh, for crying out loud, that's a buzzkill. Why do we do this to people with public speaking? Listen, before we get to the point where we ever talk about the things that might be helpful to you as a speaker, it's important for you to know that you don't have to view public speaking as a performance, as an act. You're not an actor. In fact, if you decide to stay along for these conversations with me, I'm going to actively tell you not to. I'm going to tell you why practicing ad nauseum is really killing you. It is not helping you. I'm going to tell you that the best thing that you can do with your hands is whatever the heck you normally do with them. Except if you're going to pick your nose or pick a wedgie or something, because there are some things that are just weird and we don't do it in public. We're going to talk about why your stories matter and why you shouldn't tell them all or go crazy vulnerable with your audience. And there's sometimes where telling a story makes zero sense. We're going to talk about when it might make sense to smile, even though you don't feel like it, and when it makes absolutely zero sense to smile. We're going to talk about all of these things that surround public speaking and more. But before we ever got to that, I needed to tell you why you hated it so much, and I want you to think about how you're going to reframe it so you can be successful at it. It's not an act. It's not a performance. It's a conversation. And you already know how to have a conversation. we're going to do this because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can speak. I know that you need to speak. I know that you want to speak and be heard. I know that you have something to say and that you need to say it your way, in your words, so it carries the kind of impact that you've always wanted to make. I know that nobody else can say whatever it is that you need to say like you. No one else can say what you need to say like you can say it. And I know that if you don't, that you will live with the regret of never having said it at all. All right, today I'm going to leave you with this question. What would you say today if you knew tomorrow that you would never speak again? It sounds really dramatic, but let me tell you, I spent nearly 17 years helping people who lost their ability to speak. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. There's no promise that you're going to get all these endless opportunities to say what you've got to say. So let me take away for this moment this idea that you have to be a performer, you have to be an actor to speak well, because you don't. You need to be able to have a conversation, and I know that you can do that. And I want you to do that because I do not want you to live with the regret of not having said what you needed or what you wanted to say. Thank you for listening today. I am Alex Perry. I am the owner of Practically Speaking, where I coach and keynote on all things public speaking, storytelling, and communication. You can find me on LinkedIn under Alex Perry, and on Instagram and on Facebook at PS with Alex. You're not going to find me on Twitter because Twitter scares me. So please connect with me, reach out. If you enjoyed this episode of the Practically Speaking podcast with Alex Perry, please like it, please share it. And we're going to keep talking about getting you talking and getting you speaking. Have a great day.